This conference will now
implementations,
be recorded.
upgrades, and at some places even I worked on re-implementations where the implementation was not run correctly. So I have worked for different organizations, different clients across the globe, and that's how I am having this expertise on OpenText Vim. So I'll be trying my best to give the best possible knowledge to you all, so that the main purpose is to enable you all as Vim consultants. Okay. Now, before we start further, I would like to have a basic introduction, which so that I know what is your experience and your background. Accordingly, I can conduct the classes so that all the required information and context is set so that you understand it a better way. Can we start with Siva?
Devakoti.
Yeah, Chiranjeevi, you can start.
Yeah.
Anyone, we
Hi.
can start.
Yeah. Hi. Yeah. Myself, Chiranjeevi. I have SAP FICO experience 8 years and a domain experience as well. And my qualification is ICW Intermediate and become an ICW Intermediate.
Okay, good. So you're already working as an SAP FICU consultant.
Yes. Yes. And even I have a bit experience in practical like work experience in Vim also. But I wanted to be
Mm-hmm.
thorough in the entire course and I wanted to gain the knowledge up to a level of implementation experience I want to gain.
Good, good.
So that is
No,
the
no
reason I
worries.
joined
We
it.
will. Yes, yes. You are at right place. We will ensure that you are getting the expertise what you're looking for.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Yep.
Yeah,
Next
and
one.
yeah, and next, please.
Pramila, Siva, Bharat.
Hi, I'm Bharat. I'm having total 15 years of experience. My main expertise is into the content management for open text tools. So, this SAP side, this is the first experience that I am going to start. And my core domain is into the banking and insurance sectors to digitize the paper-based documents into the digital documents by using the different OCR tools, mainly the OpenText Captiva capture tools, and also different vendor Kofax. So on the OpenText Vim SAP side, I want to experience the more knowledge on the OCR tools as well as the Vim journey. So that is how I got into this training.
Okay. Okay. Good. Good, Bharat. So, Bharat, you are already working as an ECM expert.
Yeah, I'm into the
Okay.
ECM domains, but SAP side, I have never touched anything. I have worked
Okay.
on a
Okay.
couple of projects which are having the connectors from OpenText tools to SAP side, but hands-on, I never did anything the SAP side.
Okay. And now you're looking to change your career towards SAP Vim and SAP
Yeah,
Finance,
yes,
FICO.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. No worries. No worries. Good. Thank you.
Myself, Shivkot Reddy. I have the total experience of the 5 years experience, and with domain is there. I am FSC expertise and within the FI module actually. That is my challenging in the level of the actually is that Vim is there very better opportunity for the some areas and better opportunity of the my progress of the my resume.
Shiva, I lost your voice in between. It was kind of cracking. Can you repeat, please? Sorry. My.
Uh, yeah, myself, Shivakuti Reddy. I have a total experience, 5 years experience, FICO consultant experience. My knowledge is a total FI experience for the AP, AR, and also FIMM, FISD integration. Everything is there. Good expertise actually. I'm looking for the actually is there for the Vim is there better opportunity for the in the market nowadays. Actually, I'm looking that thoroughly how can better opportunity for the my resume for the Vim also. The purpose of the join
Uh-huh.
actually.
Okay, okay, fine, very good. So you already have SAP FICO experience with
Yes,
standard FI part, and you are
yes,
looking further to boost your profile with the Vim as a niche
Vim also.
area.
Yes.
That's just good. Thanks. Thanks, Shiva. Pramila?
Hi, hello.
Yeah, hi, Pramila.
Hi, I'm Pramila from Bangalore. I'm working in Accenture. Actually, I have 7 years experience in Vim only, but end user. So recently, I got a Vim consultant role in Accenture, but I'm facing issues in configurations and resolving the issues. So I need to learn end-to-end activities related to
Oh,
Vim consultant.
okay, 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 fine. Okay, so thanks for the introduction and background. So that will help me actually to understand what is your level of understanding and what how much you are already aware about SAP and SAP processes. So that way we can basically I can decide on what level we have to go during the regular classes. Okay. So today's class would be kind of a demo or introduction class where I'll be sharing some facts about Vim, what is Vim, why there is a need of Vim and all. Okay, and what is the basic flow of Vim. So that would give you a basic hint or basically taste of Vim, and then from tomorrow onwards we can start with the regular classes. Okay, and at the end of the session I will also be sharing that what is our uh, flow or like what is the content which we will be covering in our class. Okay, everybody fine with that?
Yes, Sachin, go ahead, please.
Yep, thank you. And guys, like since this is a virtual class, I would always request you to like see if we do not interact, we do not make it interactive, it would be more like a lecture. Okay, so and also it might become boring at times. So I would request that it's because if you respond and we interact more, then it would be like the class will remain interesting and enjoyable for both of us. See, for me, telling the things, explaining the things is fine, but it's better to understand if you are getting those or not. Because unless and until you get it, I sharing from my side will not help you. So it's better if you give me a response. If you respond, it will help me to understand like what you have understood and what you not. And in case if you have not understood something, then we can repeat those concepts again. Okay, let's have fun together.
Okay.
Yeah, sure, Sachin.
Yep. Thank you. So let me start sharing my screen. Let me know if you're able to see my screen. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, Sachin. Yes.
Mm, yep. Okay. So SAP vendor invoice management. So when we say SAP vendor invoice management, it does mean that uh, the tool which we are talking about, vendor invoice management, is not owned by SAP, but it is owned by OpenText. So there is an organization called as OpenText AG. They have developed this tool as vendor invoice management, and now they have partnered with SAP. So SAP had its own process and all, and uh, like looking at the overall ec- uh, looking at the overall features and the support provided by the OpenText Vim as a tool, the industry has preferred Vim as a tool to cater the invoice management functionality or invoice management function in their organization. And looking at the demand of Vim, SAP has decided to partner with OpenText, or both ways. OpenText has also uh, preferred to partner with SAP so that they can have something developed together. OpenText Vim is a bolt-on system or a bolt-on solution, and it's a package solution. So when I say package solution, what does it mean? Is it comes with basic configuration, uh, and when you install the packages, so it will have packages which has to be installed on top of SAP. Hence, it is called as bolt-on system. That means you have something available on that you simply bolt on. Like taking a basic example, say you have a car, on that you bolt on your carrier. On the top of car, you bolt on the carrier on which you can put your luggage. So similarly, you need to have the SAP platform on which you can simply bolt on or install the Vim packages. So once the Vim packages are installed, you are ready to use Vim solution. And package solution, bolt-on system is done. And package solution means that once you install the packages, those are like installable files or the TRs which are imported, then it comes with a basic pre-configuration. Okay, so if your business process is very simple and straightforward, then you can simply plug and play. That means once the packages are installed with the existing standard pre-configured scenarios, you can start using them. Having said that, but if you have, say, complex scenarios, or a larger organization will normally have some custom scenarios, specific scenarios to their industry, then you would have to configure the Vim system according to your business requirement. Okay, sorry. So now talking more about what, sorry, somebody was saying something. Okay. So talking about Vim, so then lot of people will have a question that if SAP is like, if Vim is a bolt-on system and I need SAP system to install Vim as a base, then why did not SAP develop a product, or why did not SAP provided this functionality? Okay, so it's not like that. Basically, SAP has worked on the overall package, the SAP itself, when the solution was built. Okay, so they had worked on all the modules, FI, MM, SD, WM, QM, lot of integration. So they take care, as in like SAP being an ERP system, they take care of all the requirements of an organization, right from HR to finance till sales and quality management, everything. And they have this integration across all the modules. Okay, so they have this solution, like they have one module called as material management, where the procurement part is taken care. You create materials, you create purchase orders, create goods receipts and all. Now obviously this will also have an impact on the finance side, right? So like when you procure something, you're committing something, so your commitment should reflect in your accounts. Your When you receive goods, your inventory is increasing, then your inventory valuation has to increase. When you receive an invoice, the payment has to be made, which will again, payment is managed by the finance team, so it has to go to the finance team. So there is an integration between the material management and finance, and SAP has provided a basic solution towards catering this integration. So in SAP, you will have the MMFI integration, and You have transactions which will do these activities. For example, see, integration comes into picture when you post a GR, when you post an invoice for a vendor. So that is where your FI document, documents get posted. Along with MM, at the background, a FI document is also posted. Till the part of GR, it is, since it is the evaluation, it is not that, like, it is simple posting where it will just affect the inventory account. But when it comes to the invoice, the finance has to play a major role because payment has to be made by the finance. So most of the organizations have this as a gray area. In some organizations, you will see the vendor invoice is a part of finance team, accounts payable. In some organizations, you will see the vendor invoicing is part of the procurement team. Okay. In some organizations, they have merged this together and they form a common team called as accounts payable, which will manage all these things together. Okay. Now, since SAP has provided this transaction to post invoice, like Miro is one of the transaction in SAP through which you can post the vendor invoice. Now, if SAP has provided the Miro transaction and we can post vendor invoice through SAP standard solution, why do we need Vim over it? Any ideas, any suggestion, like if you share your thought process? Anyone, like there is nothing right or wrong, just share your understanding, your thought. Hello.
Yes,
If I'm
Sachin,
on
but
foot.
I don't know what is Miro, so I can't exactly explain what it is.
Okay, okay. So Bharat, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So Bharat,
What
since
is
you do
this?
not have background on SAP, FICO or the SAP ERP system, okay. So SAP ERP system has, as I was sharing, ERP is ERP system will take care of all the functions of a business. Okay, enterprise resource planning. So it takes care, as I said, right from your HR function to your sales function to your finance function to your quality management. Everything is taken, and SAP has provided different solutions. Okay, for each of these functions. And how SAP works is there is something called as transaction code. I would say not transaction code. So like when we basically carry out certain activity in a business. Okay, say for example, if I have to make some function, some payment to someone, it is an activity in a business, right? So that is called as a transaction. Now, for every transaction, you will have a transaction code. So when I execute a transaction code, it will give me a user interface through which I can enter the details of the transaction which I want to carry out. For example, if I want to carry out a payment, I will get a screen where I have to put in the information like for what, which invoice I want to make payment, to whom I want to make the payment, from where I want to make the payment, in what currency I want to make payment. All this information can be provided on the screen, and accordingly, the further activity or action will be taken. So this transaction is executed, or like the screen is opened using a transaction code. Now, Miro is one of the transaction code which is used to enter the vendor invoice, PO based vendor invoice.
Okay, understood. Sachin.
Okay. So now my like what I was trying to get more information or your understanding was, if SAP is already having a transaction like Miro, then why do we need Vim over it? If you can share your understanding, then like we can explore that further, and like we will see like how, why we are going towards Vim. Siva, Pramila, you already have experience with this. Chiranjeevi.
Ah, yes, sir. Sachin.
Yep. And see, as I said, like don't hesitate. Okay, as I said, like if we be like more we be frank in the classes, more interactive we be in classes, it would be more enjoyable and the learning would be better. So please don't hesitate and don't worry about right or wrong, because nobody is judging you about your knowledge here. We all are here to learn, right?
Yeah, okay, sure, Sachin.
So, Pramila, what is your understanding? Like, why we need Vim if we have standard SAP solution available?
Mm, means automation. We can compare to other application. We can easily process the invoices without any difficulty. Compared
Mm-hmm.
to other application, we need to enter any everything in manually. In Vim, the system only taking, yeah, every information is automatically. So we should check only final check, that is okay for that Vim. Full automated
Okay.
version for AP.
Mm-hmm. Good. Good. Yes. I
Uh,
sorry, Pramila, I did not wanted to point out, but I took your name, so please don't uh, take it otherwise. Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Somebody was adding.
exception handling also it is a good part, and there will be a proper authentication and right information we can input wherever it is required. And the approval process also, there is a part which would be like DOA level, I mean chart of authority level, it will be helpful. The permissions for approving the any invoices, there will be a check also for that. And and moreover it saves a lot of time when the metadata is captured. Once the system records and reads the data, and next time onwards the system automatically it will capture the data itself. So it means it will help, it will save the lot of time while invoice, instead of manual invoice processing, automatically it will capture the data.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm. Good.
moreover the images will be long lasting. We can use it for next any number of years, instead of keeping the hard copies uh, in hard copies place, because it will be storage consumption. The For example, if any tax authorities, if they ask any time, we can provide the soft copies instead of hard copies, to keeping because we don't know when the physical copy will get damaged. But wherever this soft copy, it will not destroyed like
Yes. Yes.
physical document.
Yep. Yep. Very
Maybe
good.
these
Very good.
words, these points will be valid for implementation, or to install the, or to we go for opt for the Vim point.
Yes, yes, absolutely correct. Absolutely, very good, very good. So, see, as shared, like there are a lot of features which are available in Vim. Okay, everybody talked about features of Vim. Okay, at the same time, like I'm not sure. Do you all understand Hindi?
When we discuss in English or local language.
No, no, I will be discussing. I just want see, there is a saying or proverb in Hindi, "Tali ek haath se nahi bajti." Okay, that is like you cannot clap in with one hand. So, uh, Vim has a lot of features, but at the same time, those were lackings or gaps in standard SAP solution. Okay, so basic reason of bringing Vim into picture or Vim coming into picture was the standard SAP solution was having a lot of gaps in it. Okay, and Vim open text just built a tool which will cater all these gaps. Okay, they started with something very basic in the initial versions, and then over a period they built a lot of features on Vim which will cover all the gaps which were present in this AP process or vendor invoice management process. Okay, so that is the major reason that there were gaps in a standard SAP solution which were catered by Vim. OpenText ensured that they are catering all these gaps. So that is the reason people started using Vim, since they were facing challenges with the standard SAP solution. Okay, and as you said, like there are some few other third-party tools also available which does provide this kind of solution on vendor invoice management, but they are also having some shortcomings. Like Vim is the only system which is very tightly integrated with SAP. Okay, when I say tightly integrated, is it is a bolt-on system on SAP. So all the basic things are available to the Vim solution by default, right? They are getting kind of inheritance. Everything from SAP solution is available in, is getting automatically inherited into Vim solution, whereas the other solutions, that is not inherently available, and they have to connect or develop this interface kind of thing to get the every information required by them. So uh, because of this, Vim is becoming more competitive or more user friendly. Okay, so that is one of the I would say like the most prominent reason why the industry is preferring to go with Vim. And then on top of that, is Vim has partnered with SAP, so it is supporting, because of this partnering, then SAP supports Vim, Vim supports SAP. So that is another advantage, where Vim solution is available and it will support all versions of SAP. Okay, either it is ECC, either it is like on ECC also different EHP versions are there. Okay, all those versions, even before ECC also Vim is supporting, and the newer version of S4 HANA is also being supported by Vim.
So Sachin,
Then
before Vim, how the requirement was fulfilling? Was it with Miro or something else?
no, it was, see, majorly it was with Miro, with the standard SAP solution, right? People started using SAP, and then over a period, it was not that when people started using SAP immediately on day one they found, oh, there is a gap in this process. Okay,
Yeah,
because
understood.
when you start using a new solution, a new ERP system, when we are talking about SAP, it is a huge solution. Okay, it's an
Yeah.
ERP solution, so it's not focusing on one single functionality. It's a huge solution. Okay, you can like just a comparison part of it, if we say like Vim is a small lake, and SAP itself is a ocean. Okay, such a large vast difference is there.
Yeah.
So SAP has a lot of functions. As I said, like it is catering all your requirement, right from HR till uh, finance, quality management, sales, warehouse management. Lot of things are there, and every function has different processes, different functionalities. Every area has industry specific requirements. Like if you have aviation industry, you would have different kind of requirement. If you have a pharma industry, you would have a different kind of requirement. If you have agri industry, you will have a different kind of requirement, right? Oil and gas will have a different kind of requirement. Retail will have a different kind of requirement. So SAP is more focusing to cover all those areas. Okay, they are having a much larger picture. So when people started using SAP, over a period, they started finding, okay, there are some gaps, there are some loopholes or gaps available. And then once those gaps were basically uh, open to public, people started misusing those gaps. And that is where people started looking for some solution to bridge those gaps so that it cannot be misused. Okay, now one example, a very basic example I can select, vendor invoice posting, right? Miro is a transaction through which I can post an invoice. Now once the invoice is posted, it will go for a payment, default process, correct? Now what if somebody is uh, keying in a duplicate invoice? Okay, SAP does has a check on duplicate invoice, but with some manipulation, some changing in some values of, say, the reference number or the date, right? Somebody can post duplicate invoice and then it will get paid. So that can lead to like if you consider a larger organization, it could be huge loss for the organization depending on what kind of basically scam is being done. Okay, so this is very basic example. So to have a control, who can post the invoice, who cannot post the invoice, who should have what kind of information available, you need to have some approval process before the invoice is presented for payment. To cover all these gaps, then Vim came into picture. Okay, and also OpenText Vim was one of the earlier solution which was developed to cater these gaps. So that is the reason it is basically enjoying the market footprint what Vim has today. The market capture is because of that is also one of the reason that it was one of the earlier solution, one of the initial solutions. So that is the reason people when you have a new solution and everybody is facing similar challenge, you will obviously look out solution, and when you look out the solution, you'll find who is the market leader, or which is the solution available in the market, and Vim was one of them in the beginning part, and that is the reason Vim became more famous or preferred solution. Okay.
Thanks, Sachin, for the detail.
Yep. So I was talking about the co-development or the partnership between OpenText and SAP. So since OpenText and SAP has partnered, SAP is supporting Vim all versions, and Vim is supporting all versions of SAP. They are also looking forward for expansion of the solutions and new technology. Okay. Now, when I say expansion of solution, one of the example is that uh, from last few years, the world is moving towards e-invoicing. Okay, from tax compliance point of view, so that uh, the organizations or the basically governments are able to track the business transactions, and they are ensuring that nobody is evading the taxes. So that is one of the requirement coming across different countries across the globe. And then SAP, since both of them are partnered, SAP developed a solution to decide how this compliance can be taken place. So they developed a e-invoicing solution. Being an SAP partner, Vim developed a solution which was integrating the e-invoicing to Vim. Okay, that is how SAP and Vim are helping each other. Okay, as I shared earlier,
Are
it
we
is
going
a
to cover that e-invoice also as part of the Vim training, or it will be a different section?
we'll see, like as of now the e-invoicing is not covered in the solution, but we'll see, like I can obviously share some basics part of it, how the integration happens. Once you understand, see, basically it's not that they are developed, like the solution developed by OpenText is something very out of the box solution. Okay, they have tried to utilize their existing solution and develop a new solution. So if you understand the other things from the Vim solution, it will be very easy for you to understanding what they have done to cater this requirement. Okay, but
Yeah.
we will see, because as I said, like we will see how we proceed and progress. Okay, I will share some basics part of it, because understanding like integration between e-invoicing and Vim would need a thorough understanding of e-invoicing solution also. Okay, but as I said, like
Yeah.
I'll share the basics, and then based on the other areas which we cover, like different channels of Vim and all, you would be easily understand what is the solution developed by OpenText Vim. Okay, and if you have any queries specifically, we can connect, like in the session you can share those queries, and we will share this like I'll try to clarify those queries, and it will help all others also, right? So like Pramila has some query, and if she shares, it will be helpful for other people also. Siva,
Yeah,
Chiranjeevi will also be getting information out of that query, right? So it will be helpful for all
yeah,
of us. So if you have queries, please share during the session itself. I would recommend to share during the session so that it helps others as well.
yeah, okay, sure. Really, I have so many queries pending.
Yes, 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 sure. Okay. So I hope you have understood like now what is Vim and why we need Vim. Any queries on this part?
No,
No,
Sachin.
Sachin.
Okay, fine, fine. Okay. So one last point to cover on this part is that, as I said, Vim is a separate solution. It is a bolt-on system, package solution. So it is owned by OpenText, and since it is a different owned solution, you have to pay for it. That means you need to purchase license for it. Okay. So when any organization purchases SAP as an ERP product, Vim is not bundled in it. Okay, SAP has lot of solutions, right? SAP is also procure, like I would take over. SAP has taken over lot of other organizations like Concur, Ariba. Those are procured solutions of SAP, and nowadays with S4 HANA they are bundling these things together. Okay, but Vim is not a bundled solution. You have to purchase separate license for it. Now Vim features, we have already discussed much about it. I'll cover some more points over here. Okay, package solution, that is like pre-configured scenarios are available, and so it is kind of like plug and play system. Out of the box scenarios are available. Okay, pre-configured rules are available, so that again the same part of it, where you can once you have installed the package, you can immediately start using Vim. Okay, having said that, a disclaimer that if you have a very straightforward scenario, only then it is recommended to use as a plug and play. Otherwise you should always configure based on your business requirement. Okay. Now, I was talking about Vim has as a solution, package solution. When we talk, Vim also has a lot of different components. Okay, so Vim core solution is one component. Okay, which is installed on SAP system. Vim has some other components as well, or I can say like Vim has some other solutions as well. One of the solution which Bharat has shared, right? ECM solution. That is basically, in a layman terms, we can say like it is dealing with the content which is shared by the employees. So, for example, a very basic example is like in your HR system, if you are as an employee, if your employer is asking you to share, say, your mark sheets, your birth certificate or marriage certificate, all this kind of information you are loading and you're sharing those, right? So this kind of information, ECM can be used for such requirement. Bharat, can you add more on this? You are an ECM expert.
Yeah, to understand it more easily, it's kind of a SharePoint that we use for the storing of our regular documents and retrieving and versioning of the documents. So on the OpenText side, it is called as a content management. So which we use, like a Documentum is a standard tool of OpenText where we store, retrieve the documents and trigger into the workflow side.
Okay,
And on
so
top
this
of
is
it,
one of the.
we have a
Mm,
retention policies and the adding users, groups, roles, how the workflows should trigger. So these all everything will be there inside of the content management.
yeah, so this is one of the another tool or solution from OpenText. ECM was like one of the initial solution even before Vim. Vim was developed after ECM. Okay. Another solution from OpenText is OpenText Archive solution. Okay, so that is like when I say archive, so like a basic layman term language archive. When we say, so basically we are moving something from your day-to-day activity to say for example you have an invoice or you have some your certificate, right? And uh, you are moving that certificate from your day-to-day file to another file which is kept somewhere aside in your attic or somewhere, right? for example, you have an electricity bill in your at your home. So you might be having a file where you are storing your electricity bill of every month for the current year, and the electricity bills of past years. Maybe you're storing some in a different file which is stored somewhere else. So that is your archive, and this is your current database. So that is an archive system, which is again a solution provided by OpenText, where you archive your invoices. Even ECM also is integrated with our archive solution, where the documents can be archived. So this is a server provided by OpenText, where you can store your invoices or the documents. Okay, there is another solution from OpenText, which is ICC, or nowadays it is called as IES. Okay, or better known as OCR solution. Okay, optical character recognition solution. So that is a different solution which is catering the automation part, or like making life easy for users. Invoice being keyed in manually, instead of keying it manually, you can automate it, and the OCR solution will automatically extract the data from the soft copy of the invoice and key it into the SAP system. It will basically fetch the information from the PDF copy, the soft copy, and then pass that information to SAP system, where the Vim solution will automatically fill in that details for the invoice processing. So these are different solutions, and in each of these solutions there is automation and collaboration, that is like integration between these different systems, right? As I said, like independently ECM can be still use an independent solution, okay, but archive solution or the OCR solution are, as a solution, they are developed as an independent solution, but still they would always need an integration with the other system, right? If I'm doing an OCR or extracting the data of an invoice automatically, it is of no use unless and until I share that information with my invoice processing solution. Correct? Or if I have an archive solution, it is of no use unless and until I send an invoice from one of my active systems to store that information. So there is an automation and collaboration between different solutions from OpenText. The new solutions, as I said, like the OCR solution is one of the I would say like blue eye boy nowadays in the organizations, looking from nowadays everybody is looking for new technologies, okay, and OCR is taking advantage of those new technologies like machine learning and AI, okay, artificial intelligence, to extract the data, to understand the data, what kind of data it is, and accordingly automatically basically using machine learning algorithms and using the past data, it classifies your invoices. It automatically identifies, okay, what kind of invoice it is, and then accordingly passing that information to your invoicing system. That way half the work is automatically done. That automation with the new technology of machine learning and AI is being taken care. So this is again a feature of Vim, right? So Vim has this all advantages since
So
it
Sachin,
is closely integrated.
are you
Sorry.
going to cover the OCR side also?
Yes, OCR we
Or
will
no?
be covering.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So I was saying, like, since it is a tightly integrated system, so Vim has these advantages to utilize other solutions along with the core solution of invoice processing. Okay, and the new features, like since it is supporting S4 HANA and all, Vim also has developed their own Fury like apps. Okay, so there also users have this advantage, like where they have the same look and feel for all the other, along with all the other Fury apps of SAP. Vim is also one of the tab, or one of the solution available with the Fury. So that is how SAP and Vim are co-partnered and closely integrated.
So Fiori is a user interface application on top of Vim, or
See, it is Fiori. See, I am on full screen, so I'm not sure who is talking. Okay,
this is
I'm
Bharat.
yet to recognize your voices.
Yeah, no problem.
I think it was a question from Bharat, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, Bharat. So Bharat, basically, when we talk about Fiori, okay, it is a UI5, that is user interface version 5, okay, which is developed for user interfaces. SAP has, when they came up with S4 HANA, they came up with this UI5. So as I said earlier, everything was through SAP user interface, okay, which is called as SAP GUI. SAP graphical user interface. Now, along on top of this SAP UI, they have developed integration and like for the users, they have came up with this Fiori applications. When I say Fiori application, it is an application which is developed from user point of view, that if you access this Fiori application from your mobile, your tablet, your laptop, or whatever it is, right, you will get same look and feel. Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah,
like otherwise what happens when you open through a browser on web, you get a different interface. When you open through mobile, you get a different interface, right? And
correct.
then users get confused, like what is different, why this is different, or they are not able to find certain options, certain features, because of this different user interface. Okay, now this is one of the requirement. Another is like when they brought in Fiori, they have ensured that there are not more than three steps, basically
Hmm.
three screens or something like that. The screens were same, but depending on your different roles, the access to information is separated. So if somebody who is a basic uh, data entry user will get certain fields and buttons available for their action, whereas somebody who is admin might get lot more information on the same screen or same Fiori title. Okay, so that way a lot of user role control and ease for users has been brought in by Fiori. And since SAP was completely moving towards Fiori, Vim also brought in their Fiori application. So when we talk about Fiori, it's not that something that separately is created. The all backend for all these Fiori apps, either it is SAP or Vim, is always the SAP core solution and the Vim core solution. These are on top of it, it is just an user interface.
Yeah. Okay, Sachin. Thanks.
Yep. Any other query on this?
Not from my side.
Others? Are we clear with the features of Vim and all? Any queries on this?
Yes.
Okay. So then I'll move, like we've already discussed this benefits, quickly cover this slide, okay? That accelerate the operations because it is, as I said, like it is more, we will see further in more detail that how this is accelerating the operations or boosting the productivity, because it is a process flow, okay? It is automated, so it accelerates the overall operation. It is a process flow, so it is a very streamlined process. So there is no changes over it, and everybody has to follow the same process. Depending on different scenarios, you will still have the same process to be followed. Okay, there is a lot of automation available, because of which there is a boost in productivity. And obviously when at an organization level, when you say if I'm able to automate something, uh, streamline something, and accelerate my operations, that is, if some task was taking say 2 hours, and if I'm able to reduce that to 1 hour or 1.5 hour also, 30 minutes a day also is countable for an organization. When they look at an month level, at an overall organization level, there is a lot of revenues, in terms of, it is not generating revenue, but it is basically saving the cost, operation cost. So that way it is very useful for them. Compliance and prevent fraud, which I already shared. The prevent fraud is automatically avoided by the approval process which they have as a part of the Vim solution. And compliance, we talked about e-invoicing, so it is always compliant with the legal requirement of the country. Okay. And profit from out of the box approach, because it is coming with pre-configured system, you can use it out of the box and you can start saving on your operation cost. And the newer version which Vim has came up, they have started exploring the areas outside the uh, FIMM integration, that is out apart from vendor invoice management. Now they are coming up with new solutions as well, like for sales orders, delivery notes. For those areas also, they are developing new solutions now. They are entering into other areas as well. Wherever, like they started with this vendor invoice, and now they are looking for the gaps in the other processes and developing new solutions. Okay, so those are called as beyond invoice solutions. With the new versions, when you go, there would be three components. One would be vendor invoice management. One would be the OCR solution, and the third component is called as beyond invoice solution. So when you go for beyond invoice solution, you will have the other solutions for which are like outside the vendor invoice management area. It could be purchase orders, it could be sales orders, delivery notes, etc. Okay. So basic Vim process flow. When I say Vim, okay, don't take it as a solution point of view, but it is a generic point of view. That is vendor invoice management. So in an organization, if somebody has to do a vendor invoice management or a processing an invoice, vendor invoice, what a basic process they have to follow, or generally what is the most followed process across the organization, is what is depicted in this slide. Okay, generally you will receive uh, either an email with an invoice, or you will receive a hard copy of an invoice. So if you receive a hard copy of the invoice, people will scan it and convert into a digital copy. And if you receive over an email, it is already a digital copy. Okay, now this capture metadata part is having two parts to it. Okay, here it is shown as OCR. OCR is a newer solution. In last few years, OCR has been people have started using OCR, but before that it was manual. Okay, so capture metadata. When we say capture metadata, it means that basically a very basic data entry job. Okay, looking at the invoice copy physically in your hand or digitally on your device, laptop or computer. You look at the invoice data and then manually key in the details, like what is the invoice date, what is the vendor name, what is the amount, what is the product being uh, procured, what are the taxes applicable, what is the discount applicable, etc., etc. Okay, that is called as metadata. So to capture metadata is the second step once you receive the invoice. So it could be manually, or nowadays it is using OCR, automation. Third is validate the metadata. So somebody has to validate that whatever data is keyed in, is that correct or some mistakes are done, right? Since it was in the earlier years, it was manual, it was very prone to human error. Okay, and now with these new technologies, even if we have OCR, still there is probability of having errors, right? No technology is 100% accurate. Even if we have OCR, it is still like nobody would say it is 100%, right? Still say 90%, 95%, or 99%. You still have a scope of 1% error. So whatever
Actually, this
data is being captured has to be validated. Once this data is validated, next is to business rule check. Okay. So when we say business rule check, or in other words, like this step of, I would say, like this next three steps. Okay, validate metadata, business rule check, apply business rule. All these three were done manually earlier. Okay, the person who was validating the data was also checking that not only the data entered from invoice or the physical copy of the invoice is correct, but also ensuring that all the information required for posting the invoice in SAP system is correct. Okay. Now, one of the example could be, say, tax, right? On the invoice, you will always have, say, 10% tax, or maybe 15% tax, or 12% GST, 18% GST, right? When we talk about SAP system, you won't have something as a 10% or 12% directly available. In SAP, we have something called as tax code. And against the tax code, you configure the percentage and all the other details, right? So that person has to ensure that not only the correct data is given, but also the accurate data is being utilized from the SAP system. So for 10% tax or 12% GST, you might have different tax codes. And has the person used the correct tax code? Similarly, you can have different cost centers. So has the person used the correct cost center to capture the cost? So this kind of validation is called as business rule check, or you may say validation of the additional data which is not available on the invoice, right? A cost center is not available on the invoice. It is an organization's call which cost to be settled against which cost center. Okay. So these tasks were done manually earlier and were always prone to manual errors. And then once all this is done, okay, in exception handling was also manual, where if some data is not correct, then send the invoice back and then get that corrected. Once that is corrected, then again recheck it and then process it. So when you process it, it will post an invoice in SAP system. A document number is generated against that. Okay. Now, with this manual process, we can compare how Vim solution can fit in. Okay, so for our first part, scanning the invoices, we have something called as scan stations, or where the scanning is done. Okay, then for capturing the metadata, we have the OCR solution, termed as ICC or BCC, and now IES. Okay, these are OCR solution. Then coming to validate metadata is the document processing part of it, the core solution, where it will key in all the information from the OCR or manual. Then validating the information which is not from the invoice, right? So for those, as a part of the core Vim solution, we have business rules checks. So business rules can be configured, and then all those business rule has to pass. Okay, we'll see all this in detail during our normal classes. What is business rule check and how to configure those, and what is the impact of business rule check and all that. Once the apply is done, if it is all successful, it will go for approval. So we'll have approval of the invoice, which is also part of the core Vim solution. And at the end, a document will get posted, which is in SAP itself. So as a bolt-on system, it does certain activities, and then at the end, it leaves back to the SAP system that how it has to process further. Okay, and additional archive center or archive content repository. So here also we can have content repository as a Vim solution. They are not mandating to use the open text archive server itself. You can use SAP content repository or any exhaust server kind of thing, any server which does storing of the data. Okay.
Sachin, this validate metadata is always a manual process or it can be automated?
No, as I said that, uh, I was sharing from the business process point of view. Okay, so it was earlier manual. Now, certain part of it is automated, but still certain part still remains manual. Okay, as I said, like if you are using OCR solution, right? With the OCR solution, you always have an option to extract the data, and you will always have an scope of error. Even if your OCR solution is 99% correct, you'll still have a scope of 1% error. Okay. Now, depending how you have configured your OCR solution, what kind of scenarios you have in your organization, how efficient is your OCR solution with your scenarios. Okay. Different organizations take different steps. Now, some organizations, what they say, if my data is 99% correctly captured in OCR, okay, 1% is in error, okay, I do not want to validate it manually. Let it automatically get validated and then move to the next level. So after your validation, it will automatically go for business rule check, right? So they are when they are confident that their OCR solution is very effective, and their business rule check is also very effective. Okay, so they're sure that they won't be facing any major challenges. If there are any minor challenges, they are ready to take those risks. So in thus such cases, they go with 100% automation. In some industries where they have very stringent laws, maybe like pharma industry, right, they have very stringent laws. So in those cases, they will never go with 100% automation. They will always have a manual check in between. Okay, having said
I think
that,
this
on
OCR
top
is
of
a
all this,
different
okay,
software. Hello.
sorry Pramila.
This OCR is a different software, or it is already so available in Vim only?
No, I was sharing earlier also, right? OCR is a different solution. It's a different component of OpenText. It's a different solution. You have to take a separate license of OCR, and it is not mandatory to use OCR to use Vim solution.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Vim you can use without OCR also. When Vim had started initially, there was no OCR. Over a period, they have developed a solution for OCR, and that is being well integrated with the existing solution. But it is still an optional solution. Okay, it is not a mandatory solution. And secondly, it is also a separate license, so it is an additional cost. Okay. Any other questions?
No, sir.
Okay, so I hope then you're clear with the normal vendor invoice management process. Okay, now I will show how it is handled in Vim. Okay, so as it is very similar on the same track they have developed, they have just tried to fill in the gaps wherever it was possible. Okay, so first part was capture image. That is where your scan centers comes into picture, where you scan the invoice and then it is sent to the archive server. Okay, now with that archive server goes from the that archive server is already integrated with your Vim solution, so you have an connection available. So OCR data, when it goes to OCR, which is an optional component, also fetches your invoice image from the archive server. Then from archive server, the next from the after the OCR, it will go to the validate metadata, check for duplicates, or in other terms, it is all business rules. Apply all the business rules, check for the business rule, and then post the documents. So this is all is happening in Vim core solution. You see here the I mean to say the color coding also. If you see the light gray color is all core Vim solution. OCR is an optional additional solution, and the archive server is in another optional solution or another tool from OpenText. Okay, and then again one more point to add here, OCR solution. So like Vim is very flexible. Okay, uh, in other words, since it is an SAP bolt-on system, it is also following the framework or architecture similar to SAP. So it is flexible, and for OCR purpose, OpenText is not only a company who is providing OCR solution. Okay, in market there are a lot of other organizations which are they have developed their own OCR solution, and the client is free to use any of the OCR solution. And with that, there is an like, you would obviously, if you use some other OCR solution, okay, you would have to integrate that with the Vim solution or the SAP system. uh, Whereas if you use OpenText OCR solution, then it is like kind of native integration. It is directly integrated with, closely tightly integrated with the existing solution. So there is an flexibility available there for the OCR solution. So these are different Vim components. Now coming to the process flow. Okay. Now I'll give you a very basic process flow. It is very similar what we have discussed till now, but how this happens on system, or when you have the Vim solution in place, how does this happen and what are different terminologies being used? Okay, we will talk on that part now. So first, if you see on the left hand side, okay, you have different sources of invoice. It could be e-invoice, it could be an IDOC. Okay, IDOC is very specific to SAP solution. Bharat, for you as an information, it is called as intermediary document. And if you have two SAP systems, okay, then you can share the information in terms of, or in the form of IDOC. So if you're having some client who is also having an SAP system, and you're having a like kind of trusted relationship, you can develop an integration between these two systems, and you can share IDOCs directly. E-invoice, iDocs are like digital way to share the information. Email is also a digital way, but it is more of like physical converted into digital. It is more like a physical copy of your invoice which is sent over an email. Uh, Basically a digital copy of your physical invoice. And the last option is the physical invoice itself. Okay, so all these different sources of invoices through which it comes are termed as channels. Okay, in Vim we will call, or we will term these as different channels. So you can have different channels for invoicing, okay, to receive the invoice data. It could be e-invoicing, it could be iDoc, it could be email, it could be physical copy. When we say physical copy, obviously it will go through scan stations and we will receive a digital copy. Okay, so you can see here that when it comes from email, or if it is coming from physical, it will be scanned. Okay, here it will be scanned, it will be converted into a digital copy. So email and this digital copy goes together, stored as a digital invoice. When the physical invoice is there, it is obviously stored in a physical archive as well, your physical file. And when it is converted into digital, digital will also be stored into the archive server. Okay, from the archive server the information can flow to OCR. Okay, and then OCR validation, then it comes into register into SAP solution. And from there, once the data flow from OCRs to Vim solution, or if you do not have this OCR solution, then this digital invoice directly will flow to in the SAP Vim solution. And in the Vim solution, then it is getting categorized into PO invoice or non-PO invoice, that is FI invoice. Now giving a very basic on this, in SAP you can have a vendor invoice based on a PO with a vendor, or you can have a direct vendor invoice that is like without a PO, that would be termed as an FI invoice. Okay, for example, if I am planning to procure something big or a larger amount or for a larger duration, normally organizations will follow a process where they will raise a purchase order, and against that purchase order they will receive the service or the goods. Okay, and if there is something very small, or it is one time activity, or low value asset kind of thing, then the organizations might not go for purchase order and they directly procure and pay to the vendor. Okay, such things are called as non-PO invoice or FI invoice. So in Vim terminology, we will always use non-PO invoice. Okay, PO invoice and non-PO invoice. PO invoice, when you have the uh, process is different because SAP has its own FIMM integration process coming into picture. So there you will have a three-way match and then blocking of invoice or releasing of invoice and all that stuff. And when we go to non-PO invoice, it directly goes through posting, and then if it is approved and posted, it is released for payment. Any questions on this part?
So what
Because
is
this
the
is from
major
more of
difference between
SAP
the,
perspective. So sorry,
yes,
sorry.
what is the major difference between a PO and a non-PO?
PO and non-PO. Okay. So PO invoice, as I said, like when we go for PO, when I say purchase order, okay, it is falling under the material management module of SAP. Okay. SAP has developed a complete module to manage this part. So you will have your materials created. Material will have their own material master data. It will have material valuation or the costing of it. All that stuff is stored in material master data. Then based on material master, then you will have another master data called as vendor data. So in vendor also you can have different functions or different I would say like each vendor can have different parties. You can have a different invoicing party and different shipping party. So these are partner functions. So you can have different partner functions. Like if a vendor is a large vendor, right? They might be issuing invoice from a different entity and receiving the goods, or issuing the goods from a different entity. So this way, these are different partner functions, and all this together, when you have like when you start with the procurement process, you might have purchase requisitions. Against the purchase requisitions, you will select one of those, you will capture the information for the procurement. Okay. And then you will create a purchase order, which will be your final process to like where which is kind of an commitment or a contract between you and the vendor, that you will be procuring such goods at so much like for so much of quantity with such a rate, and what would be your delivery schedule. A lot of other options are there. Okay, from material management or procurement point of view. Okay, is your goods evaluated goods or non-valuated goods? Would you be receiving GR for it or not receiving GR? Is it a goods or service PO? There are a lot of different options available there. Okay, what would be your delivery schedule, what will be your delivery address? All this is captured in a purchase order. Okay, now when we say purchase order, since it is an integrated with purchase order, the invoice, PO invoice, okay, will always have a linkage to purchase order. So when you post an invoice, right, the transaction which I had shared earlier, Miro. So from that, when you post an invoice, it first posts an MM document. Okay, on top of MM document, like in the background of document, there is an FI document getting posted. So when the document is getting posted, it will also have the different checks and functions of side. Okay, which is called as like three-way match or two-way match, depending on your organization setup. Okay, how like what process you have set up. When I say three-way match, it is the comparison between the PO, GR, and the invoice. Is the price, is the quantity matching in this three: PO, GR, and IR? IR is invoice. Okay, invoice receipt. So this is called as three-way match. If you're not having GR, you can have two-way match, where you can say like it will be checking the or comparing PO and invoice data. So this kind of things will come into picture if there is a mismatch like if your three-way match fails or two-way match fails, your invoice will automatically blocked for payment. So invoice will get posted, but it will be blocked for payment. You cannot initiate a payment against it because uh, there is some discrepancy found. that your price is not matching or your quantity is not matching, and because of that the team is doubtful if this invoice is correct or not, and hence a payment should not be issued. This is I would say like standard SAP process. Okay. And hence this processing of invoice for PO based invoice is different. Okay. Since the background or the see Vim is in as I said since beginning, I'm repeating again maybe, it is in bolt on system. So when I say bolt on system, it has to follow the basic framework and architecture of the base system, that is SAP. So it has to follow all those base requirement, and these are required from organization's process point of view as well. Okay, that is the reason SAP has built those processes separately. So matching your inventory, that is your quantity, price, all is required to ensure that your system is in sync with, or like the data getting posted is correct. Okay, reconciling with each other. It should not happen that when you're posting an GR, that's a goods receipt, you're receiving say 1,000 quantity, and when you're receiving an invoice, you're getting say 1,050 quantity or 950 quantity. Something should not happen, right? Then in that case, your system will not reconcile. Your inventory valuation will not reconcile with your payment done against which the payment is done. So to avoid all those kind of complications and errors, this is a process. So you always have an document getting posted. If your document is through, then your FI invoice is automatically FI invoice is anyways automatically posted, but it is also released for payment. Whereas in FI invoice, there is no purchase order, so none of this come into picture. Okay, there is no quantity, no inventory, no GR, no PO, so nothing has to be validated against each other. It is straightforward. You have the invoice, post the invoice, ensure that it is entered correctly, and post the once it is posted, you make the payment for it.
Yeah, understood, Sachin.
Any
Sachin,
other
I have a
questions?
question about IDOC.
Yes, sorry, please go ahead.
I have a question about IDOC's channel.
Yes, tell me.
Actually, in my process, that is Italian. Okay, they are submitting invoices to some SIV agency. That agency should be convert that invoices to HTML format. Okay, then they converted that invoices to HTML format. How they will upload it to Vim? If any different way it is there to upload to Vim. I understood paper invoice how we are receiving via ICC or BCC, ECC like that. But this IDOC?
Yeah, now coming, see, your specific query is very I would say like your query is or doubt is very specific to your scenario. Okay. And we can cover this once we start discussing more about the different channels. Okay, right now taking up this query, I can answer this right now, but it would be very difficult, or it might be challenging for you also to understand it thoroughly, and others also it would be very challenging to understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Okay,
okay, sure,
so
no
we
problem.
will take up this query. Maybe you can park this query, you can keep this with you, and when we discuss more about different channels and all, at that time we will take
Hmm.
this up.
Yeah, okay,
Okay.
sure, Sachin.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other query on this? Okay. So last but not least, I am just showing a basic process, or the first one of the first configuration. Okay. It's not in detail. It's just an introduction that how this will happen. So before we start with any of the Vim process or anything, the first prerequisite for us would always be to configure the archive repository. Okay, archive link configuration. The terminology used is archive link configuration. Now, with archive link configuration, what we would do is that we will develop a connection between SAP system, okay, SAP system, Vim solution, and your archive server. As I shared earlier, the archive solution or the archive server could be in a third party independent archive server, or it could be an open text server does not make any difference. The way it is connected to, or it is linked to the SAP and Vim solution is the same. Okay, so here if you see, there are different transactions which I have shared. The short form for transaction is T codes. Okay, so T codes OAC0. This is to create the repository ID, and there you will give the details of the archive server and port details. Okay, I am sharing this information just for the understanding purpose. Ideally, this step or this particular activity is carried out by the basis people in whichever organization you work. If you are working as a finance consultant or Vim consultant, you will always have access restriction to finance related transactions or finance related activities, and there are a lot of basis related activities. So this is one of the basis related activities. Okay, now if we talk about Vim solution, so installing the Vim packages. Okay, again, installing Vim packages is something which a consultant or a finance consultant or any other consultant apart from basis consultant cannot do this. Only the basis consultant would have right authorization and right knowledge to implement those packages. How to implement those packages? So similarly, creating a repository ID, since it is a connection between two different systems, that is your archive system and your SAP system, this will generally be taken up by the uh, basis team. Okay, but this is the T code where you can create the repository ID. Sharing, the purpose of sharing is that in case if you're facing some challenge, you can go and see what is being configured for your understanding purpose. Okay. The next is presetting folder, where this is again one of the basic transaction where OAWS, where you create your folder to do a drag and drop activity. Okay, so that is your first step to start with the invoicing solution. Do a drag and drop activity. Okay, we will see all this in detail further when we start with the classes in thorough. Okay. The next is creating Vim objects or linking this archive object to Vim document, that is OAC3. Okay, and the last one is again OAC3. So this is like for two different object types, Vim object types and the FI object, MM object. This is like required. Why we are linking this archive to Vim solution is that if you have an invoice which is scanned, it is automatically stored as an attachment to your Vim document, as well as to your final document, that is your FI or MM document, which is getting posted. To those also it will automatically get attached. So in SAP, when you open any FI document, you have an option where you can go and see if there is any attachment to that document. Okay, and in that attachment, you will be able to find this invoice copy. So to link this, you have these two steps. One is for the Vim document. So until it is posted, you will be able to see that attachment in your Vim solution, and once it is posted, then you will be able to see that transaction, that attachment in your FI document or MM document, the standard SAP documents. Okay, this is how it works, and this is called as an early archiving. Okay, now what do you mean by early archiving? Is where you do the archiving before you post the document. Okay, there is something called as late archiving or post archiving, which is by terminology, what does it mean is that you post the document and then at the end you archive the document. Okay, but in general that process or that particular step is not followed uh, uh, by the organizations, because since it is a late archiving, most of the time there are challenges faced where the document which is posted is not getting properly linked to the archive document, archive attachment. In the early archiving, what we are doing is the first step is doing the archiving and then passing that information further to the all the next steps. So you always have a proper link with your archiving system. Both this process or both the options can be used, but generally accepted solution across the organization, across the globe, is early archiving. Okay, so like this was the basic introduction to your archive servers. That is all for today's class from my side. Okay, if you have anything on queries part of it, I would, as I had already requested earlier, please do raise your queries during the class itself so that we can discuss those, clarify those, and it would be helpful for others also to understand and get that additional information. Okay,
Sure, Sachin.
any queries for today's session?
Mm, No, but about the training side, so it will be like the sessions will be more on the lecture as well as the parallel hands-on, or how it will be like.
Yes, yes. So sessions we will plan such that uh, okay, we will do a trial, okay, with couple of options. One is like we have one session of theory and one session of practical, or we will see like half the time as theory and half the time as practical. Okay, so I'll be showing you everything on system in detail with the how you have to go, how to navigate, all those options I will show you on system. Okay, so you will have those practical details available and you will also get system access to do the hands-on.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so we'll see how we go ahead, uh, you are in touch with Subu, right? Subu will be sharing the access
Yeah.
information to
Okay.
the SAP system. Okay, and then as I said, like we can try the options whichever suits to all of us together. We will go ahead with that. Okay,
Okay.
like
And
if
that.
we have a theory solution and then you try hands-on on your own and then come up with query in the next session, so maybe we can define like design the flow such that like every session, maybe initial sometime they will discuss the queries. Okay, clarify those so that you have better understanding, and then we will start with the new concept of the theory, and then you try again that into hands-on on your own. Okay, and we can have one hands-on session, complete hands-on session in a week where we will only carry out all these steps, whatever all the theory what we have learned. Okay, all those activities in the hands-on, and then discuss all the challenges or the queries you have. Or the other way is where we learn something as a new concept on the same day, we try hands-on during the class time itself. Okay, we will see like which suits better.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. And about the course, how many days it will be, and what timings?
See, to be very honest, days wise, I have not yet calculated this. Okay, I'll show you what is the content what we are going to carry out. Okay, here if you can see my Excel. Okay, so
I think you are not
we,
sharing.
oh, I'm not sharing. Wait a second. Why? What happened? You were able to see my screen earlier, right?
Yeah, I think now
Let
also
me.
you are sharing, but it is, I think, no, you are not sharing.
Let me see what happened. Let me reshare the things. Okay.
Yeah, now
Okay. Are you
it's,
able to see my screen now?
yeah.
Okay. So this is the content which we will be covering. Okay.
Mhm.
So again, like as I said, like it is always very helpful and easy if you have this knowledge, the prerequisite, that is knowledge on AP processes, knowledge on MM processes, and some basic in workflow admin knowledge. Because the Vim solution is completely dwelling on these three concepts. Okay, these three processes. So if you have basic knowledge on this, it is very good and easier for you to understand the Vim solution. If you do not have, still no worries, I will be covering the basics of it, as I did today for what is PO, what is Miro, all this I will be sharing basic part of it. And on addition to this, this is very basic concepts, so you can Google, even if you go and search on YouTube, you will find very good videos there to understand the overall process. If you just go and search on Google like what is the process in SAP, you will find very good videos there where you can learn those process. or you can learn the AP process. Okay,
Yeah, sure.
just as a prerequisite, if you have, it would be easier for you to understand the concepts. Okay, and uh, you will have thorough understanding further. Even if you don't have those like as a prerequisite, if you do not know those processes, I will be covering the basics of those.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, and then we will be covering from Vim point of view. These are the this is the content which we are going to cover. So in the overview, we have already covered how Vim addresses this, what are the components, architecture, how the document is posted, the swim lane process diagram we have seen, right? We'll be going through Vim users and all others. I have shown you the uh, archive configuration, right? Next part would be Vim roles, Vim type, process options, BDC configuration, DP type creation. Okay, uh, background execution, PO approval configuration, rollout criteria. All these are, this is configuration, step by step configuration process. Okay, the non-PO invoicing for the invoice approval, how to configure invoice approval and all that, different channels, email channel, IDOC channel, all this, different reports and background jobs, and last is the OCR part of it, ICC part of it. Okay,
Yeah,
so
sure.
OCR and ICC part, just to add there, this will be more of theoretical. Okay, I'll check with Subbu if we have access to OCR solution. If not, then we will be discussing this theoretically, and then we can, like, in your respective organizations, if you have access, you can try there, uh, and then you can share your queries if you have something. In case if we have the access, then obviously I'll show you the demo, like the practical through, and we'll have hands-on as well. I'll check that with Subbu for the
Yeah.
OCR part. Okay. Since
Okay.
OCR is a different component shared earlier, right? So we'll see, it has a different license cost and all. I would have to check with Subbu if that is available with us or not.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so maybe like I'll share, like if you're looking for what is the daytime. Okay, reason I have not planned the days and dates on this particular part today itself, okay, and not sharing those, reason is because I do not want it to stop us from discussing something. Okay, before something is like I mean to say, like if we are, like if certain concept is not clear to you and you are not understood it thoroughly, then I do not prefer to go to the next step. Okay, go ahead,
Yeah,
because
understood.
if I'm time bound, I would have to do that. I hope you're understanding my point, right?
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, so that's the reason I'm not share the dates. We'll see, we'll start with the basic course and the concept part of it, and then based on how we based on the progress, how we proceed, maybe then I will share all those, all the dates for future as well.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks.
Okay, uh, any queries, anyone else? Okay, last point from my side is that we'll be having classes on every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Okay, 9 to 10. Today's
Mm.
was a long class. I took extra time since I was in a,
This
so
conference will
since
now be recorded.
sorry, I was just thinking that since it is an introduction, everybody should understand this. I did not stop at the time. Okay, but like in our regular classes, it would be a 9 to 10 class. Okay, so a request would be for everyone to join on time so that we can start, and then so that we are able to cover uh, the concepts during that time. Okay, if you join late, then it will delay the overall process. Are we all good with this? Anyone has any
Yeah.
concerns, queries?
No, Sachin, nothing from my side.
Okay, Pramila. I think Shiva and
No,
Chiranjeevi have
Sachin.
already dropped. Okay, fine. Thanks. Then we will meet tomorrow, 9 a.m. Okay.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you. Bye.
thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Bye bye. See you tomorrow.
Bye.